for the next 4 weeks, starting today, yeah, we are actually planning to discuss the Bhagavata Katha, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll start with the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam today. It's a very, very important topic. I don't think I'm very qualified to actually talk about that, but we'll try to actually understand some glories, at least, of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are getting this Bhadra Purnima on the September 6th. So on that occasion, we'll see what are the glories of this Bhagavatam starting today. And we'll start with Kirtan, a little bit of bhajan. It's always good to get into the mood of remembering Sri Radha Madhava. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jayo Radha Madhav, Jayo Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jayo Radha Madhav, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to actually talk about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very, very important topic. If you want to actually glorify somebody, first of all, you should actually be on some platform which is comparable. Otherwise, you glorifying is like um, someone unqualified glorifying a very, very great personality would mean it is actually an insult to the great personality. It's just like a beggar sitting on the road says that, oh, you are such a great personality. I mean, say he actually sees a rich man and says, you are such a great personality, and you are, there's no one compared to you, and things like that. It's more like an insult to the rich man than it's a glorification, because glorification is normally done between equals, or someone who's almost close, and that person recognizes what a glorious person this person is. I'm nowhere close to, I mean, anywhere coming to talk about glories of the holy name or glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I actually request each one of you in this forum, over 30 of the devotees who are there, 29, if I include myself is 30, 29 of the devotees, to actually please allow me to speak, bless me, so that I can share something that I've learned in this matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's a extraordinarily great literature, and it is Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, as we will start actually hearing more about the glories. Um, so first prayers to the spiritual masters, so that we actually get the empowerment to actually talk about the glories. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादा सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, before we actually recite the most important prayer, it's given in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. What I'm going to do is, I collected some quotes about Srimad Bhagavatam, how important the Srimad Bhagavatam is from other Puranas perspective, and we'll also actually read something from what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, because he's our Mula Acharya, or the main personality in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And also from Srimad Bhagavatam itself, so many, what is the benefit of actually reading Srimad Bhagavatam? What is the benefit of hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, or just worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam? We'll try to actually hear, depending on the time how much we have, we'll try to cover whatever we can today, maybe for about next 50 minutes to 1 hour, and then continue this in the coming weeks, because this is a great literature, and for all of us, we are supposed to be immersed in hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. First, before reading Srimad Bhagavatam, one should actually have the mood of accepting some truth. One should not actually have a confusion that Krishna is Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With this confusion, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you will not get any understanding. One has to actually have thorough commitment or conviction that Srimad Bhagavatam talks about Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that shloka is the first shloka everyone recites, and we also have to recite. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. So this is actually the shloka which is actually recited before one recites the Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. So the meaning of this, Srila Prabhupada translates it, before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, um, which is the very means of conquest. Now here, if you see what it means is, the goal of reading Srimad Bhagavatam is simply to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. If you simply recite, even though you don't understand anything inside, if you keep reciting this, the shloka itself, it's so powerful, it will change our consciousness completely to be attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you keep hearing again and again, reciting the shlokas again and again, you will get completely attached to Krishna, even though you don't understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam verses. That's the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is actually quoted by the beginning of the second chapter, fourth verse in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, that is Krishna, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, that the third, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. The four personalities whom we have to always pay obeisances or respect them before actually really reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Who are these four people? One is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Second is Naranarayana Rishi, who is actually doing a lot of austerities just to actually keep all the saintly people, all the devotees to be connected to the Supreme Lord. So by Narayana Rishi is actually taking so much of austerities on behalf of all of us, so that all of us can actually not get disturbed in this Kali Yuga. The supermost human being is Narayana Rishi, the two personalities, and Mother Saraswati, because she's a goddess of learning. Without her blessings, it's very difficult to understand Bhagavatam or any literature for that matter. And finally, the author himself, Srila Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva is actually is the Lord himself, Krishna himself in the form of a writer. Whenever the Lord wants to write, he becomes Srila Vyasadeva. So as such personalities, we have to respect them, and then we can actually get started in understanding what Srimad Bhagavatam is all about. The first one I'll actually talk about is from the Skanda Purana. I'll read the translation because the shlokas are very lengthy, because these shlokas are not in a poetical format. It's more like a prose, like a paragraph. The meaning goes like this. In Kali Yuga, of what value are collections of hundreds of thousands of other scriptures? If one does not keep the Srimad Bhagavatam in his house, in Kali Yuga, how can a person be considered a Vaishnava if the Srimad Bhagavatam does not find a place in his house? The two sentences of this kind, right? One is, in Kali Yuga, you collect thousands of hundreds of scriptures, other scriptures, literatures, anything and everything collect. But if you don't keep Srimad Bhagavatam in house, what is the value of keeping such scriptures? That's the first one. Second one is, how can a person be considered a Vaishnava? If you think you are a Vaishnava, a follower of Lord Vishnu, a follower of Krishna, then how can Srimad Bhagavatam not be there in your house? Even if he's a Brahmana, he is to be considered lower than a dog eater. O Vipra Narada, wherever is the Srimad Bhagavatam in Kali Yuga, the Lord goes there along with the demigods. O Muni, a person who faithfully recites a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam every day attains the fruit of reading the 18 Puranas. In the Shastras, actually, that's mentioned there are many Puranas there, but 18 Puranas are actually very prominent. These 18 Puranas are listed in one of the Puranas itself. Of these 18 Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam is actually considered very topmost, and it is mentioned. If you read one verse, just one verse, every day from Srimad Bhagavatam, you will attain the fruits of reading the 18 Puranas. So these are all concessions given by the Lord for Kali Yuga souls, because in Kali Yuga, people are not too excited to read anything, first of all. They'll say, oh, so much of books, so 18,000 lokas, who will read? It's not possible. So we'll actually try to keep it away. But the Lord is giving concession. This is in Kali Yuga. Wherever the Srimad Bhagavatam in Kali Yuga, the Lord goes there along with the demigods. That means all the demigods and the Supreme Lord himself comes to their house wherever Srimad Bhagavatam is kept at home. What else do you want? I mean, as long as Srimad Bhagavatam is there, all auspiciousness slowly start coming in. You will not realize it. Those who have Srimad Bhagavatam at their home, see over a period of 5 to 10 years, see what has happened in your lives. You'll completely become more auspicious. Your way of thinking actually changes a lot. It's all because the presence of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is one of the shlokas mentioned in the Skanda Purana, which is very nice to hear for us. Okay, I have Srimad Bhagavatam at home. That means the Lord is there, the demigods are there. So I should actually become more aware that they're all around, and I should act accordingly, right? So that's the first one. I'll go like this. We'll see how much ever we can cover. We can cover that much. Um, the Vedic scriptures, there are four Vedas, right? The fifth Veda is considered as the Mahabharata. Uh, Vyasadeva himself says that Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the essence of all the five Vedas. He says as five Vedas because he considers Mahabharata as one of the Vedas. And the four Vedas are for qualified Brahmanas, whereas the Mahabharata is considered as a Veda for the less intelligent personalities, twice born, friends of the twice born, Dvija Bandhu or Brahma Bandhu. And then the women, Shudras, they don't understand these high class shlokas and things like that. So for them, he's actually written this. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, because Vyasadeva wrote the Vedanta Sutra, which is actually the conclusion of all the scriptures you can think of. After writing that Vedanta Sutra, he's written Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a complete settlement of the Mahabharata, because it's also mentioned that Mahabharata contains everything that is required to know. But there are certain things which is not explained even in the Mahabharata, but that the conclusion of that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a complete commentary on the Gayatri Mantra. It strengthens the explanation of the Vedas and is the topmost Purana written by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, this is mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, quoted from Garuda Purana. And Garuda Purana is actually conversation with Narayana, Vishnu himself, and Garuda ji. They both are discussing. In that, um, the Hari Bhakti Vilasa quotes that, which says that this Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary, or it's the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. Then it is also the complete settlement of the Mahabharata. Whatever questions you're confused in Mahabharata, you can get the answers here. It is a complete commentary on the Gayatri Mantra, goal of Gayatri Mantra. Everything is actually explained. It strengthens the explanation of the Vedas. The Vedas sometimes actually give some explanation, sometimes confusing, but Srimad Bhagavatam reinforces the right understanding and is the topmost Purana, and it is written by the Supreme Lord himself. Vyasadeva is considered as Supreme Lord because he is not an ordinary person like us. He is beyond making mistakes. And this Purana has 12 cantos, 100 sections, and 18,000 shlokas, is what is mentioned. Of course, in the 18,000 shlokas is actually not exactly, if you count, they may not actually come to 18,000. It may come to 14,000, around that number, because some shlokas are not in the shloka format. It's actually in the prose format. It's just like you cannot, there's no metrical pronunciation. You cannot actually repeat it as a shloka. It's more like you just have to read it, right? So this is actually from the Garuda Purana. Similarly, there are Lord Chaitanya himself actually quotes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and also in the Chaitanya Bhagavata. There are many quotes like that. One of them is basically like this: Srimad Bhagavatam speaks of the highest goal of life, devotion services, and divine love of Krishna. According to all the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam is the very form of divine love. The four Vedas are like yogurts. Comparison is given of these kinds that um, how you can actually compare Srimad Bhagavatam as a topmost literature by keeping it at home. What really happens? Plus, when we read from this Srimad Bhagavatam, um, how our doubts gets actually completely removed, because many a time actually different Puranas actually talk about different things. We get confused sometimes which is actually the right thing to understand. Even inside Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes we get confused. In some chapters something is explained, in another chapter something is explained in a different way. We may get confused. However, when you actually hear it from the authorities, then it becomes much simpler. So here example is given that each Veda is considered as yogurt, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like butter. That means from these four mixture of yogurts, the cream of that yogurt is actually taken as the butter, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. The churner of this butter is Shukadeva Goswami, and the eater of this butter is Parikshit Maharaj. This is actually quoted in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, in the Madhya Kanda, wherein Lord Chaitanya is actually discussing these things with the Prakashananda Saraswati. This episode, many of you may be knowing. There are this discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and one of the Mayavadi sannyasi, Prakashananda Saraswati, with so many followers. So when they are discussing this, these statements actually keeps coming. Another one quoted like this: Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the supreme Lord and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in each and every syllable, not only verse, in syllable, there are various meanings. This is actually explained by Lord Chaitanya, because he gives same verse, same shloka he takes and gives 64 different meanings. So he has that, he has the potency to do that. We may not be able to do it, but it's mentioned like that. It's so powerful. Srimad Bhagavatam, Tulsi Devi, the Ganga, and the devotees. Wherever these four are present, they are found, then Chaitanya Bhagavata says Krishna will be present. Krishna is always present wherever Srimad Bhagavatam is. We may actually consider it as an ordinary book, but Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself in the form of a book. Someday, whoever is around the Srimad Bhagavatam will get delivered for sure. Even if they are avoiding to open the book, someday the Lord will create situation wherein they will open the book. He will give them the blessings and they'll actually make progress to actually become his devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam, Tulsi Devi, Ganga Jal, and the devotees of the Lord, wherever the Krishna devotees are there, these places Krishna is personally present, is what actually mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Padma Purana, this is not actually mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam directly, but then this is mentioned in the Padma Purana, where the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam is described as a body of the Lord. How some devotees actually I've seen that they arrange the Srimad Bhagavatam in a format wherein it looks like a human being. Like they'll keep the first two cantos down, then they arrange it in that way, and then they actually put flower garlands and they actually do offering, they worship. So this is not a wrong conclusion, because it's mentioned in the Padma Purana. It says, I meditate on the most merciful Sri Krishna, whose bodily hue is like a tamala tree. Why actually do they mean like this? It's basically because there may be many Krishna mentioned in the Shastras. We don't know. We are not actually opening all the scriptures and looking into it. We are only looking at the Vaishnava scriptures mainly, in order to make sure that we are referring to the right person. The name is given and some identification also is given. So whose bodily hue, that means the color of the body is like a tamala tree. Because if you say black or some color which is very difficult for us to understand, because these all will change. A tamala tree is very easy to find in the Vrindavan area, but I don't see that anywhere else much. So it's a little darker in color, like the cloud color, right? The rain cloud color. He has appeared for everyone's benefit in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. That means Krishna has appeared in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is like a bridge for crossing over the unending ocean of birth and death. No one knows when we came into existence. No one knows when we will go back to Krishna. Krishna may know, we may not know. But we get stuck in this cycle of birth and death, so much so that um, we get caught up saying that I don't think I can make it. It's very difficult for me. But if somebody actually takes shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and then keeps reading Srimad Bhagavatam and depending on Srimad Bhagavatam all the time, then there is a very high chance that we can actually go back to Godhead very soon. The first and second cantos are his lotus feet. Third and fourth cantos are his two thighs. The fifth canto is his navel. The seventh and eighth are his mighty shoulders. And the ninth canto is his throat, that is neck. The 10th canto is his face, which is like a fully bloomed lotus flower. The 11th canto is his forehead. The 12th canto is his head. So this is how actually the Lord's form is actually described by Padma Purana. Very interesting, because if you have all the books at home, and the Srimad Bhagavatam complete 12 volumes, 18, all 12 cantos, 18 volumes of book, you can understand how this is Krishna himself. This is not actually allegorical explanation. It is a fact. Those who are pure devotees of the Lord can really see when they read the first canto and second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they start observing the lotus feet of the Lord. I've heard some devotees actually mentioning that when you really get very deep into this reading of the first canto and second canto, they'll start actually observing the lotus feet of the Lord. Of course, it takes time for us to get the realization, but This is not a wrong, what do you call it, imagination. It's a fact. If you have Srimad Bhagavatam at home, you have Krishna at home. We may not realize it, right? Another explanation given is that Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as a Mahapurana. Purana is a normal, what do you call, historical information. Mahapurana means something which is actually having various categories of explanation about the existence of life, right? So there are 10 different subject matters which are explained in the Mahapurana. Purana actually has normally 5, right? Akhyana actually have about 3, something like that. So Mahapurana is a very, very important thing. Padma Purana is considered as Mahapurana. Srimad Bhagavatam also is considered as a Mahapurana. Why? There are 10 different aspects which are explained. What are these? This we may probably cover in the coming, what you call, classes. It's a long explanation, but this is mentioned in the Bhagavatam itself. Sarga, that is primary creation. Visarga, secondary creation. We have heard about creation. Creation means what Brahmaji does. Creation, all this world, how it did come into existence, things like that. But what Brahmaji does is actually secondary creation. It is not the primary creation. The primary creation is done by Mahavishnu. This is all explained in the Bhagavatam. How the how the Mahavishnu, that is Karanadaksha Vishnu, starts putting everything into motion in the material world. That's actually called the Sarga. He provides the basic ingredients, and Brahmaji picks up that and then builds everything else. That's Visarga. Then the Lord maintains Sthanam. He actually maintains the entire material creation. Poshana, that is nourishment. That means if you create something, you need to maintain it. After maintaining it, you need to nourish that whoever is there in the creation. So the Lord does that. The explanation about all these things are there. Then Uti, which is material desires. um, Manvantara, reign of a Manu. Ishanu Katha, that is actually the activities of the Lord with his devotees. The 8th one is Nirodha, which is actually annihilation. That means destroying the entire creation. That explanation is actually given. Then the 9th is Mukti, which is liberation. And the 10th is Ashraya, that is the supreme shelter. These 10 topics, whichever Purana covers these 10 topics, is called a Mahapurana. And Srimad Bhagavatam apparently covers all these 10 topics. Vyasadeva has written it in such a fashion that all these different aspects are covered. And again, there are mixture of these things, not that the 10 are in the sequence. Sometimes 1, 3, 5 might be there in first canto, 1, 2, and 6 may be in the second canto. So like that, it's all spread across. But all of them are covered actually. So it goes on like that. Lord Chaitanya actually, in his conversation with Prakashananda Saraswati, quotes from various places about the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam and why. Because Prakashananda Saraswati and most of the impersonalist sannyasis just discuss the Vedanta Sutra and then start speculating what could it be. But Lord Chaitanya was not doing that. Lord Chaitanya was actually chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and he was actually explaining the Srimad Bhagavatam with his close associates. So when this conversation really happened between Prakashananda Saraswati and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prakashananda Saraswati actually became very sober or very humble in front of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya, when he actually approached the Mayavadi sannyasis, all of them, he washed his feet and sat at the same place where normally people who are washing their feet, it's not a nice place to sit. But Lord Chaitanya felt that he's unqualified to sit. He showed his humility and he sat there itself. And Prakashananda Saraswati said, "You are a great sannyasi, and sannyasis don't sit like that." And he became very compassionate, looking at him, saying that, okay, maybe actually he doesn't know the etiquette. Maybe he doesn't know what needs to be done. He's a very what do you call, a junior sannyasi. I need to actually give him some shelter. That attitude came into Prakashananda Saraswati. That was a trick the Lord played. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played a trick so that he become more compassionate, because Prakashananda Saraswati was fully prepared to fight it out logically to prove Lord Chaitanya that whatever Lord Chaitanya is doing is wrong. Um, so Lord Chaitanya, being super soul, he knew it. So he first of all removed that attitude of being very arrogant, because if that arrogance is there, you cannot understand these very scriptures. So he brought him to a very sober mood and then explained. He said, he's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Leela, says Vyasadeva collected whatever Vedic conclusions are there in the 4 Vedas, 108 Upanishads, and placed them in aphorisms. Basically, he took whatever the essence of all the four Vedas and all the 108 Upanishads, which are very important, and he took only those which is important and put it in a aphorism kind of a fashion. What is aphorism really means? Just a 3 or 4 worded sentence. You figure out, for example, Janmadhyasitaha means everything comes from the Supreme. That's one aphorism. But he doesn't really explain what is the Supreme. How does everything come from the Supreme? So all these things are put in the Vedanta Sutra. So in the Vedanta Sutra, the purport of all Vedic knowledge is explained. Everything is there, but you have to understand it in proper way. And Srimad Bhagavatam, the same purport has been explained in 18,000 verses. Lord Chaitanya said, Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but the natural explanation of Vedanta Sutra in a way that everyone can understand. Therefore, it is to be concluded that the Brahma Sutra is explained vividly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, what is explained in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam has the same purport as what is explained in the Upanishads. That means you will not find um, different things which is mentioned in the Vedas and different things mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. While Srimad Bhagavatam will have only the conclusions, it will not have the details. Just to give an example, uh, um, me going to the temple, right, to take darshan of Jagannath. Um, so the Shastra would say that I went to the temple and then took darshan of Jagannath. Whereas in the Puranas, they will have some more masala or some more details to it. In the sense, on the way, I actually took some fruits. I bought some fruits. I went to a market. I got some flowers. And then on the way, I actually met a few devotees and then said Hare Krishna to them and then went to the temple to take darshan of the Lord. But Srimad Bhagavatam is concise and it does have only that final conclusion. Now, we should not think, okay, oh no, in here it is mentioned like this that Ajamila actually called out Narayana's name, but in the Matsya Purana, how is that Narayana? He actually he had a what do you call? He had a child. How did he name him as Narayana? All these explanations are given in the other Puranas, but Bhagavatam will not have all these things. It will have only the conclusions, right? So Lord Chaitanya explained all these things. Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, there are so many wonderful shlokas which talk about the condition that we live in, how it is all predicted. Whatever is going to happen in the future is predicted. Um, Not all Puranas actually talk about it, but Srimad Bhagavatam does consider that. There's one very, very, very important shloka. There are many important shlokas, but this one of them, what I'm going to recite, tells that in Kali Yuga, Bhagavatam is actually the main scripture. Um, it goes like this: Krishne swagadharmo bhagate dharma jnanadibihi saha kalo nasta drisham esha puranarko adunoditaha. What it means is this Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. That means Krishna has left this place, the material world. What has he taken away? He's taken religion. No religiosity will be there. He's taken the knowledge. What is the perfect knowledge? That's also taken out. Everything is gone because Kali Yuga is not meant for all these things. At that point in time, the Bhagavata has actually appeared. Now, persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. I mean, those who are completely confused about what is the goal of life, why am I here? For such kind of people who are completely confused about the existence, they will get direction from this Purana, right? So this is actually an explanation given. It's actually a shloka which is there in the 3rd chapter itself, whereas all the sages, right, who are assembled in Naimisharanya asked the question, and Sutta Goswami is actually answering questions to the sages. And all the sages actually, when they ask this question, they get this answer. It's actually reported in I think the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. Very important one to understand. And again, there's another famous shloka or poetry which is written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the acharyas in the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because after the 6 Goswamis left the planet, there was no one to really understand Lord Krishna's pastimes fully. They were all confused. So Lord actually empowered Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to appear and write explanations on Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vaishnava literature, so that everyone can understand it clearly what it really means. Why does the Lord do a particular pastime in a particular fashion? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually quotes that because we all know that Lord Krishna actually performed the Rasalila or the dance with the gopis, and that's considered as the highest or topmost kind of worship. They don't use any incense stick, they don't use any conch, nothing, but they are actually serving the Lord, and that's considered as the topmost worship. So Vishwanath Thakur, no one could understand it. How can it be considered as a topmost way of worship? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually has written so many books around these aspects so that the Vaishnavas, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, can explain these things better. No other Sampradaya Vaishnavas can understand these concepts except Lord Chaitanya's followers, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Only they can understand. So this is a very famous shloka, which is or rather than it's a poetry written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It's called this. It's from a set of. From a book called Sri Chaitanya Mata. So this is a very interesting shloka. We all know it. Many of us know it. It says, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesh Tanayas Tadhanam Vrindavanam Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumartamahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatra Daraha Na Paraha. So, four things Lord Chaitanya has opinion about. Um, this is his opinion, Lord Chaitanya's opinion. We consider Lord Chaitanya as Krishna himself. He has his own opinion, so he's sharing that opinion. What are those things? The Supreme Person of God, Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaja, is worshipped along with his transcendental abode Vrindavana. Krishna and Vrindavana cannot be separated. They're always together, and we worship Lord and this abode together. First one. The most pleasing form of worship of the Lord is that which was performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. Um, it's more pleasing to Krishna and it's more pleasing to the devotees of Krishna. The pure devotees of Krishna likes, obviously, the pure devotees of Krishna will like whatever Krishna likes. Krishna likes when the gopis actually are with Krishna, when he's actually playing with them. And that's considered as the topmost way of worship of the Lord. Second thing. Third, Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless authority on everything, and pure love of God is the ultimate goal of life for all men. So these are the third and fourth. That is, Srimad Bhagavatam is a spotless authority on everything. Anything which is Vedic related, Srimad Bhagavatam is the authority. If Srimad Bhagavatam says something, accept it as the final authority. This is actually Lord Chaitanya's opinion. You can understand how important this particular scripture is. That means if you actually have that scripture, and you know what it is, if you are confused, okay, oh, if I don't follow something, the demigod will actually become angry, or this, oh, I don't know what I should do when somebody passes away. Should I do this or not do this? If you have Srimad Bhagavatam, you open the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, you read something, you follow that whatever is mentioned, that means you actually have the authority. You have the what you call blessings of that topmost authority. That is the power of actually having Srimad Bhagavatam at home and reading them, right? And the fourth one is pure love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life for men. Um, in general, people actually have this understanding that dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That means dharma is basically religious principles. You follow all religiosity, do everything properly, don't cheat people, all these things they'll talk religiosity. Dharma, artha means what do you call desire for wealth or accumulating wealth. Why do you need wealth really? Because if you have wealth, you can actually have better sense gratification, which is the third one, kama. You can actually enjoy good sense gratification, and you will enjoy it in such a way that you feel like actually you are a king of heaven, like Indra, like you enjoy in that fashion, right? That is the third one. And the fourth one is when you're frustrated with all these things and enough of this, I just want to actually put a stop to this, then you call as mukti or moksha, which is also called liberation. This is commonly known for everyone, but Lord Chaitanya said these four are not actually the ultimate goal of life. Ultimate goal of life is pure love of Godhead, prema pumartamahan. That means love of Krishna, pure unalloyed love of Krishna is actually considered as a topmost goal or ultimate goal of all men, right? So these four sentences, Lord Chaitanya actually had the highest regard, and this was the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said these four things are very, very important from his perspective. First, Krishna is always worshipped with the dham, never alone. That means either with him there will be some devotees or Srimati Radharani or the Dham. Somebody will be there with Krishna. Krishna is never alone. We don't worship Krishna alone. Um, Second thing, Srimad Bhagavatam is a spotless Purana, right? It's a spotless Purana and it's the topmost authority. The third one is basically um, the way gopis worship Krishna in a very selfless mode. That is the topmost worship of Krishna. And the fourth one is love of Krishna, developing the love of Krishna. If somebody actually comes and argues about, okay, this is dharma, this is what you should know, pati dharma, patni dharma, father dharma, mother dharma, all these dharma, it's all upadharma. It is not bad, but this is not the ultimate goal. One should not be settled that I have done the perfect thing as a father or a husband or a mother or a wife. Perfect. No, perfect thing is actually to attain this Krishna prema. That's actually the ultimate goal of all men. So this is what Lord Chaitanya says, right? And there is another shloka which is really really good because this is actually again the first canto. You'll have all these different nice shlokas coming up. Um, this is basically how when Srila Prabhupada wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, there were a lot of faults. The English translation was really bad because Prabhupada's way of explaining things were very different from a standard English scholar's way of presentation. But Prabhupada had faith in the words of his spiritual master and the words of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is again another shloka which is actually mentioned in the which shows that how our ISKCON actually has come up based just on this shloka alone. It says Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Prati Shlokam Abadivatyata Api Namani Anantasya Yasho Ankitani Yad Shunmanti Gayanti Grihanti Sadavaha. So this particular shloka, Prabhupada used to quote again and again. You will find that mentioned in the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam also. The meaning is very simple. On the other hand, actually, the first is actually discussion between Vyasadeva and Narada Muni. And apparently, Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva that you have written a lot of Shastras or a lot of Vedic scriptures. Everything is written already, but you actually missed out the real point of what you should be writing. That is why you are unsatisfied. Srimad Bhagavatam is the last or ultimate or final scripture written by Vasudeva. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the Supreme Unlimited Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Even though Prabhupada mentioned this, my English was not all that good, but I knew that there will be some people who will be really honest. When they read it, their heart will change. Uh, Prabhupada went and preached not to all high class people in the United States. He went to all the hippies. The hippies were honest, frankly speaking. They were just completely in a blown out state, but they were really honest. And when they heard Prabhupada actually explain about Srimad Bhagavatam, most of these people actually become devotees of the Lord. And many of them actually are spiritual masters because they are very honest. And since this is presented as it is, they all changed. So when you present the Srimad Bhagavatam as it is, those who are very, very honest, they will definitely actually change. Their hearts will actually get purified. They will actually become devotees of Krishna. So this is actually the foundation of ISKCON actually. Because of Srila Prabhupada presenting the whole Srimad Bhagavatam as it is, we can really understand how powerful the words of Srimad Bhagavatam are coming true. And it's actually changing people. If you actually talk to many of the sannyasis, how their past was, or many of the spiritual masters, how they were in US before Srila Prabhupada came, you'll be surprised. I always quote this example. If somebody actually is a decent candidate who actually gets 60% marks in their academics, when they're studying, they read on their own, they get 60 marks. Give them a tuition and they really work hard, and then they get 95 or something like that. I mean, it's a good thing. It's not bad. It's good. But imagine there is actually a failure candidate, someone who actually, whatever you do, they fail in the exams. You train them and then bring them to the topmost level. That means you are actually the top three rankers of the class. That requires real power. You simply cannot change someone. It's not a miracle. It's less than, not less than a miracle. It's very, very tough. And Srila Prabhupada did that. He picked up all hippies who are actually completely dropped by the society. No, hippies means people will not consider them as very important people. They are just thrown like slum areas in our language, right? So no one bothers about what's happening there. But you pick them up, purify them, and make them as the topmost devotees of the Lord, who are dedicated their lives completely for serving Krishna. It requires nothing less than a miracle, and that's what Srila Prabhupada did. And with what did he do it? Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam mentioned this, that if somebody reads it, even though they are very fallen, doesn't matter. If they take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, they have broken all the principles. They are the dirtiest people you can ever imagine. I don't want to even associate or see them. If they take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, they will become the topmost personalities in the universe, who are as who will become as worshipable as like demigods like Lord Brahma, because of their surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. And Bhagavatam can do this for us, right? Every time Glories of Bhagavatam is actually explained, there is a very wonderful story. You might have heard about this story about Gokarna and Dundukari. So this Gokarna story, it's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's mentioned, but the details are not there. How Gokarna actually delivered his brother. Um, um, that the explanation is there to some extent, but not everything is explained. Um, Interesting, actually, there is in the Padma Purana, actually this full story is mentioned. It's nice to hear that how people in the past lived their lives, right? There was once a Brahmana, a medium rich Brahmana. No, normally Brahmana means you always think they are very poor. Not always. Sometimes because of the past karma, they become little rich. So this Brahmana Atmadev was his name. He lived in the banks of Tungabhadra. So they don't actually mention it as either in Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh and things like that, because the land keeps changing, but the bank of the river they don't change, because no one can own the rivers. You can own the land, but no one can actually really own the rivers as such. So in the bank of Tungabhadra, this Atmadev lived, and he actually had he was very sober, very well read, very nice personality, very charitable kind of person. He had a very beautiful wife by name Dunduli. So this Dunduli, although very attractive, very beautiful, she was qualified in various things, but she actually has very one hopeless quality. What is that? Is she's extremely cunning. Um, she had that nature of being a very cunning woman and short-tempered kind of person. Somehow they both lived together, but they never had children. And Atmadev was always worried that I don't have a child and things like that. And he went to different holy places. Nothing really happened. They took a lot of vows, but he didn't get a child, because it is said putra hinam. Uh, they say what I don't get the full thing, but I remember that putra hinam. Something like hell. Actually, you can't stay at home without any children. It's very difficult to stay. Looking at each other's face, it's so irritating. Actually, that's what they say. So he tried hard, nothing happened. And so he thought I should start giving charity, so that by giving charity, I can get the blessings of all the different sages, and I can make some progress, and I can get at least one child. He tried that. When he was doing it, nothing really happened. But one day he was so morose, went to the forest and met a sage. And he was crying when the sage came and asked him what really happened. He said, I'm morose because I'm having this difficulty. I'm not able to realize my condition. I don't have a child. So I feel very disappointed to live like this, without any children. It's miserable. I can't explain this, but it's miserable for me. Again, they didn't have ISKCON. We didn't have our wonderful spiritual masters. We actually are engaged. Even though we don't have children, we can accept Krishna as our children, and we can always serve the Lord like that. It's not important that this is all the Vedic culture style. There, if you don't have children, then they won't allow you for any social function. So it's very difficult kind of lifestyle. Prabhupada's mercy, we have a different shelter. So we are so happy with that. So this Atmadev cries, and then the sage looks into his eyes and then starts understanding that he has a problem. So with this mystic power, he understands that this Atmadev has so much of bad karma that not only in this lifetime, the next 7 births, he will not have child. So he explains to Atmadev, and Atmadev is so morose. And after explaining everything, Atmadev again asks, like, can you get me a child? So, because while Atmadev is actually so morose, he's not able to take the instruction of the sage. The sage tells him better to actually become more spiritual. Just leave it. All these things are not going to help you. But still, he says, "No, I want a child." So the sage says, "Okay, I will do something. But however, this child may actually cause some kind of a problem for you in the future." Said, "Okay." They say, right, blind uncle is better than no uncle. At least you give me some child. At least, even though I have a problem, let me cross the first level. Let me get the child, and after that, it'll break my head. It's okay. So he actually requests the sage and says he gives a fruit to him, and he tells you have to give it to your wife, and you have to make her follow these things along with eating the fruit. What are those things? She should speak the truth. She doesn't do that. She should be clean at heart and body, should be kind, should be charitable, and should have one meal per day. If she actually is willing to do these austerities and have this fruit, you will get a child. It's possible. So he's very happy. He goes home and tells his wife. His wife would never do all these things because he's very cunning. She will actually say something but does something else. Atmadev gives the fruit to her and say, "Please do this." But this lady, Dunduli, is not very happy. So what does she do? She says, "Okay, I need to do something different. I don't want to actually have a child and I lose my form figure and things like that. I don't want to actually have a child." So she calls her sister, who's already pregnant. Says, like, "We'll do one thing. You give me your child. I will tell my husband that I'm pregnant. Then after a while, after 6 to 8 months, I'll give the child to him, saying that, see, this is my son or daughter, whatever it is. But I don't want to have a child. I don't want to follow what he's telling." Sister is actually what do you call akka, or or elder sister in cunningness. So she says, "Okay, I'll give me some money. I will trade my son or a daughter if you give me money." And he says, "Okay." They are rich, so they said, "Okay, I'll give it." But what do? They actually throw this fruit to the cow who's there in the outside the house. They throw the fruit to the cow, and the cow eats that fruit. So eventually, two children are born. One, Dundukari, who is actually born to the sister, and the sister brings and gives the child to this Dunduli, saying that this is your child. And Dunduli somehow manages, saying that, "I'm having difficulty in feeding her, feeding the child, so I need to actually take my sister's help because her child died," and all these things. They do drama. And Atma Dev is a very simple person. He says, "Okay," somehow they manage. So the Dundukari is actually the son born there. The cow also give birth because of the blessings of the sage. And there's a boy who's so cute. He's born, but he has ears of cow, big cow ear like this, right? So Atmadev and all the sages, all the saintly persons see them, and he give the name. His name is Zundukari, and because he has this ears of a cow, they name him Gokarna. Gokarna means go means cow. One of the meanings of go is cow, and Karna means ears, right? Gokarna. So he gives the name as Gokarna. Now, this Gokarna, because he's born in such a wonderful way from a cow, he becomes very well read in Vedas, and he becomes very sober, very, very qualified kind of a person. Whereas this Dundukari, because he's born with so much of deceit, cunningness, shrewdness, see, this actually shows if the mother and father are not in good consciousness and they get child, it's going to be messy actually to manage home. This Dundukari became a terror. What he used to do is he used to beat people and take their money. He used to beat his own father and then take the money from his pocket. And he did all these things. You can see the difference. And he started drinking and everything he did. And Atmadev, because of this what you call bad son, lost everything. Eventually, all his wealth used to go away. And this guy used to go and gamble somewhere. And somehow he never used to study anything, and he just went and used all the wealth. One day he came home and then asked Atmadev for more money. He said, "If you don't give me more money, I'm going to become violent. You don't know what I will do." I mean, like a filmy dialogue, they'll say, "I'll come and kill you," and things like that. So Atmadev was very morose, saying that, "Why did I ever get this child? I should have actually avoided having a child. I was much peaceful in a different way." By that time, Gokarna came. So Gohan came and asked him, "What really happened to you?" Um, in fact, this Atmadev was growing up Gokarna as his own son because he was born in the same what do you call cowshed of his house, right? Gokarna explains about the temporary family life and how life changes because of the destiny. And he said, like, don't get attached to this worldly things. Just focus on the Supreme Lord and keep moving. Go back to Godhead. So there's no point in actually wasting time whether others will change or not. You actually become more serious and keep going. Um, so so when he says that he gets some solace, this Atmadev gets solace, and he goes to what do you call the forest and to continue Krishna consciousness. He wants to become more serious, so he leaves the family and goes out. So Dundukari comes back home and then sees that his father is not there, so he actually starts threatening his mother, which is Dunduli. So he doesn't bother. Mother or father doesn't matter. Give me money. Dunduli says, I don't have any money. Your father actually has not left any money. You have used everything. So this Dundukari says, I will actually torture you if you don't get me money. Somehow go and get money. So because of the fear, Dunduli actually commits suicide. She dies. She just jumps into the well or somewhere and then she dies off. Dundukari is not bothered. So what he does, he at home no one is there. Gokarna has actually gone out. This Atmadev is not there, and Dunduli is also dead. So Dundukari gets 5 wives. He maintains 5 wives in the same home. And in order to maintain them, he starts stealing notorious things he starts doing. So he eventually actually goes and then picks up the treasure from the king. He actually steals so much of treasure from the king and brings it home. And all these 5 wives are very scared because if the king comes to know, the king will punish them. So what they do, best thing is actually take the jewels and everything and run away. And meanwhile, they'll kill him, kill this what do you call Dundukari, and then they will bury him in the house only. Notorious family actually. And they'll kill all of them, join together and kill the husband, and they'll bury him under the husband and under the earth there in the rooms, and then they just leave the house and goes. So what happens? Dundukari is actually not liberated because he's actually a very notorious fellow, and he's killed in a wrong way because he becomes a ghost because of that. So eventually he stays in the same house because he's very attached, and whoever comes and stays there, he'll torture them. He will actually kill them or does something that people are scared in that village. So one villager who actually meets Gokarna later after some years tells about what really happened to his family, like his father Atmadev. This is what happened. We saw that even Dundukari actually is dead. We don't know what really happened to him, but he's not to be found and things like that. So this Gokarna says, okay, so if all of them are dead, then I need to do. So he does Shraddha for all of them in their names. He offers oblations for the departed souls and decides, okay, I should go back to the village and see what is the situation there. Maybe Tundukari should be there somewhere. I can find out. So he comes there. So when he comes there, he finds that house is still there, but people say, warn him, no, there's a ghost inside. Please don't go. So Tundukari is still living as a ghost there. This Gokarna goes there inside this house, stays there, and then Tundukari is not bothered. He'll torture. He will start creating disturbances. But his disturbance is not affecting Gokarna at all because Gokarna is very peaceful. He's focused on the Supreme Lord all the time. So anything which is done is not affected at all. So this Gokarna sees that this is Dundukari who's become a ghost. He says, brother, I am Gokarna. What happened? Then Dundukari understands that he's struggling or he's suffering because of the condition. He explains everything to Gokarna. Saying, this is what happened. I did all this wrong for the family, and then finally all these wives killed me. Please deliver me, brother. I'm in a miserable condition. Gokarna says, okay, let me think about it, what to do. So he actually prays to Surya Dev, and Surya Dev actually gives him a suggestion saying that if you read Bhagavatam for 7 days, and if he hears that directly from your mouth, then he will be delivered. So Gokarna calls Indukari, look, I'm going to actually give a class on Bhagavatam for 7 days. You also come, but you should also hear attentively with what I'm going to recite. Tundukari says, okay, I will do it. But Gokarna is not confident. How do I know that you're going to actually stay there? You have to stay there, only then I can deliver you. Dundukari is so miserable. He says, I'll stay there. Do one thing. You construct a bamboo structure with 7 knots. Every day, one knot, I'll blast open that knot and come out. then you will know that actually I'm here and then hearing. He says, okay. So every day he does that. One knot actually gets opened. On the seventh day, the whole structure actually blasts and then it falls down. And all of them actually see a four-handed form going out of that whole thing. And then Dundukar is actually liberated. He becomes like a Vishnu Duta because of attentive hearing. So all the Vishnu Dutas are carrying him, and all the people who are hearing Gokarna, they are surprised. We also were hearing, how come that only he is getting liberated? Um, why did we not get liberated? So the Vishnu Dutas respond that you are all not attentive. You are just sitting and hearing for time pass. You are just hearing for the sake of it. He was in so much of tension, so much of worry, and with so much of concern. Actually, he was really attentively hearing the holy name of the Lord from Gokarna. Because of that, he got the benefit. And then he goes. So this attentive hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam actually has so much of benefit. Just by hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's so much personality like Dundukari was so sinful, he got liberated. So this story is often actually mentioned in explaining the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you simply keep Srimad Bhagavatam at home, that is the first step of success. It's something like booking that I'm going to go back to Goddard. When it depends on us, but at least I have a seat there. I can go back, right? So that is actually the power of hearing about the Srimad Bhagavatam and reciting about Srimad Bhagavatam. This story is actually mentioned often. Anyway, so it's already 5:30. Okay, I'll take another 5 minutes. I'm hope it's okay. So we'll try to actually complete a little more. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam itself, in the last chapter or the last three chapters, I think the 11, 12, 13, there are various quotes. The 13th chapter is the last chapter wherein actually the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is actually mentioned in Bhagavatam itself by Sutta Goswami. Because Sutta Goswami is actually thanking all the different personalities and then saying what is the power of having Srimad Bhagavatam. Um, he says that the Supreme Person of Godhead personally actually revealed this whole Bhagavatam to Lord Brahma, because Lord Brahma was confused when he was born and he was sitting worried on the lotus flower without understanding what he's supposed to do. And Supreme Lord himself actually revealed the whole Srimad Bhagavatam to him. Such is the glory of this Bhagavatam that it's not actually someone written it. The Lord himself gave it, right? It actually has end to end only Krishna's pastimes and nothing else. And by hearing it again and again, one definitely will achieve the ultimate goal of life, he mentions. And he also mentioned this. This is the 12, 13, 13. Very, very important. Many times you'll say, I don't have time for all these things. If you don't have time for all these things, you should try to do this. What is that? If on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne, after worshipping, gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. This is actually the Bhadra Purnima we're talking about on the September 6th, right? If somebody doesn't want to actually read Bhagavatam, I can't do all those things, at least you can donate on this day. You'll still actually make progress towards the Supreme Lord, right? In the same Srimad Bhagavatam 13th chapter 14th or 15th verse, Sukadeva Sutta Goswami mentions, as long as Srimad Bhagavatam does not enter, all the other Purana scriptures are being discussed heavily. That is, all other Puranic scriptures shine forth very nicely in the absence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Once Srimad Bhagavatam enters, all the Puranas will take a back seat. They will not actually have much prominence there, right? Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature, right? This is also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, this is Sutta Goswami explaining. Again, the famous shloka comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, last canto, last chapter. Nimnaganam yata Ganga devanam achyuto yata Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu Purananam idam tata. This is a very famous shloka. It says, just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, Krishna, is the supreme among deities. And Lord Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of Vaishnavas. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. And Purananam idam tata. Of all the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. This is given by Sutta Goswami, right? Very, very important shloka for us to memorize. It's a nice shloka. If you keep memorizing this, and if you recite one shloka, it's like eating 18 Puranas. So it's so wonderful to know at least one or two shlokas. Then the 19th verse of the same thing, there's a very, very important shloka which is mentioned. Um, it's a long shloka, but what it means is very simple. Um, while the translation doesn't touch about it, but the word to word meaning actually has a very important aspect. What does it say? It says, Kasmai yena vibhashito ayam atulo jnana pradipaha pura tadrupena cha naradaya muneye krishnaya tadrupina. So this rupina keeps coming there. But in the translation, it's not mentioned. It says, I meditate upon that pure and spotless supreme absolute truth, who is free from suffering and death, and who in the beginning personally revealed this incomparable torchlight of knowledge to Brahma. Brahma then spoke it to the sage Narada, who narrated it to Krishna, Dvaipaya, and Vyasa. Srila Vyasadeva revealed this Bhagavatam to the great sages, greatest of all sages, Shukadeva Goswami. And Shukadeva mercifully spoke it to Maharaja Parikshit. This is the Guru Parampara, how Krishna spoke to Brahma, Brahma spoke to Narada Muni spoke to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva spoke to Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami gave this to Parikshit Maharaj gave it to, or whoever was there, like Sutta Goswami was there hearing, and he gave it to all this. That's how the parampara is coming. But a very important aspect is there in the shloka is that Tadrupina, that means the Supreme Lord gave this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to Brahmaji, and the Supreme Lord in the form of Brahma gave this knowledge to Narada. And the Supreme Lord himself, that Tadrupina comes again and again. Narada Muni, that Supreme Lord in the form of Narada Muni, gave this knowledge to Vyasadeva. Like that, Krishna himself comes as our spiritual masters and gives this information to us. It is not that somebody else is actually, some person is actually giving it. Krishna himself in the form of Guru giving us this knowledge to us. So we should understand that this information is the topmost thing. And if you actually keep Bhagavatam at home, all evil things will just disappear. It's just a matter of time. You will get ultimate benefit of human existence simply by keeping Srimad Bhagavatam and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's a wonderful aspect of actually having Bhagavatam. I'll stop here. Actually, we have some more slides to finish or some more information. Can cover lots, but I want to actually respect the time. So we covered it for 1 hour. Any questions? I can take 1 or 2 questions maximum for now. Maybe they can mute themselves and ask.
Hare Krishna devotees, if anybody want to have any questions and ask any questions, please unmute and ask, or you can type it in the chat box.
Yes, can type it. Yeah, you can type it in the chat box, or yeah, there are so many pastimes like this. It can go on for days, because one time Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, when devotees asked him, if in case the whole matha is on fire, what is one thing that we should save? So Bhaktivedanta Thakur one time said that save the Srimad Bhagavatam. If the whole world, everything is burnt, if you can recover just one copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, you have not lost anything. All information is intact, and you'll not lose anything for the future generation. That is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. It's so wonderful. We have that information passed on to us. Okay, so if you can actually, if all of us can actually try, if you're not able to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, we should actually have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam with us. It's like keeping Krishna at home. If you're not able to do that, at least pray. If you can distribute it to others, well and good. If you're not able to do it, just pray to the Lord that somehow Srimad Bhagavatam should come into the house of all the living entities, because more Srimad Bhagavatam comes into the houses of living entities, whether they read it or not, that's secondary. Kali's influence on that house will go. Kali cannot touch that house. Slowly, they'll actually start transforming. It's just a matter of time. That's the power of keeping Krishna at home. Kali Yuga cannot actually have any kind of influence on such a person. Yeah. If there are no questions, maybe I can wait for 1 more minute. Savana Prabhu, what do you think? Should I wait for a minute, or is there anybody else has questions?
Looks like there are no questions, Prabhu.
Prabhu, have you allowed everyone? They can unmute themselves.
Yeah,
Yes,
Prabhu. I have already allowed unmute.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we keep hearing again and again Srimad Bhagavatam, it will definitely purify our consciousness. We may not realize it. It's mentioned in the Shastra that if you just keep Srimad Bhagavatam at home, this is actually the benefit. Imagine what will happen if you hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And more than hearing Bhagavatam, if you actually start speaking Bhagavatam to others, what level of consciousness you will have, what level of destiny you will have. Can't imagine. So we should actually have the faith. Just matter of time. You'll be able to see the Lord face to face. This matter of time.
Prabhuji, I have one question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Means what is the difference between the Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam? Means the final conclusion will be how, Prabhuji?
Okay, so see the Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam, you're asking the difference. See, the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as a Purana. Purana is actually part of Smriti literatures, whereas the Vedas is considered the Shruti literatures, which is actually heard from an Acharya or a spiritual master. Vedas is more elaborate, right? It actually has a lot of other things which has to be done, which should not be done. Whereas Srimad Bhagavatam actually has concisely what needs to be done, what has to be followed. You will find in Vedas there are information about how to do yajna, how to do this, and things like that. All the details around activities, and also the spirit behind the activities. Why should we do this? And all these explanations are there. Whereas in Srimad Bhagavatam, mainly the spirit is actually explained. You do a yajna, what should be the goal of that yajna, and what is the consciousness of that yajna? What is that supposed to be done? That is explained. So the Srimad Bhagavatam consider in literary terms like a ripened fruit of a mango tree. If you see a mango tree, you have so many fruits are there. Each fruit is considered as one Veda and things like that, one literature. A ripened mango is very, very, very tasty because we all know that mangoes, when it's ripe, it's more tasty. A fully ripe mango. And in that, if a parrot actually pricks it, if it actually bites a little bit of that mango, it's supposed to be very tasty. And that's the explanation given in the Bhagavatam itself, that Bhagavatam itself is the essence of all the Vedic scriptures. The essence, instead of taking one banana, one apple, one grape, and things like that, and you make a fruit salad, you just take the essence of it. The whole essence is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. And Shukadeva Goswami spoke on this whole Srimad Bhagavatam, so it's very tasty. And especially someone who's heard the Srimad Bhagavatam explanation from a pure devotee of the Lord will not settle for any other explanation after that. He will just leave it saying, waste of time. I don't want to actually spend time there. That's actually the advantage. Okay, there is actually a question that Sanatan Prabhu has actually asked me. What is the qualification needed to read Srimad Bhagavatam? Do we need to have finished Bhagavad Gita? To read Srimad Bhagavatam itself, one has to come. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for someone who is actually beyond this enviousness and things like that. However, Srila Prabhupada actually has written the purport so wonderfully that even if you actually you're not qualified for anything, if you simply read the English text with the grace of Srila Prabhupada, you can understand. Bhagavad Gita is the first step to understand spirituality. Srimad Bhagavatam is the second step to understand spirituality. Bhagavad Gita gives the Sambandha Gyan. Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the Abhidheya Gyan. Abhidheya means something which actually talks about the process of serving the Lord and his devotees. How does different devotees have served Krishna? Krishna does not talk about that in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna only tells you have to surrender unto me. That's the goal of life. You're not this body, you're the soul. In the past, many sages actually have followed this process and they have come back to me. That's all he's saying. He doesn't explain about how one has done, how one should do, and things like that. That's just a Sambandha Gyan. So the Abhideya Gyan, which is basically to understand about how do I surrender to Krishna. Krishna says surrender unto me, but how do I surrender? What does it really mean? Should I be thinking about Krishna and sitting and doing nothing? Or is there activities? So all these things are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can read both of them simultaneously under the guidance of a senior Vaishnava. Then you will actually understand. Otherwise, you might get confused. Yeah. But Srila Prabhupada's purport is the one which actually is more important than the Srimad Bhagavatam shloka itself. Because those are Srila Prabhupada's personal ecstasy. He's written all these things for our benefit. Otherwise, it would have been so complicated for us to understand. Because Bhagavatam is not new; it has been there for a long time. But Srila Prabhupada's commentary has made the world change. So that's an advantage for all of us, that we are grand disciple followers of Srila Prabhupada, trying to read those purports. Amazing purports that Srila Prabhupada has given. Yeah. Hope that helps, Nathan bro. Yeah. Okay. So I would request, if you can actually, if you don't have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not like ordinary newspaper. These are something like it will not stay just with your generation. It will go to the next generation. And as we saw in the beginning of the class, it's Krishna's body himself. So keeping at home, our generation, the next generation, they may not know, but the Lord is not going to keep quiet. He will actually bring himself into our lives, in the future lives. All people in the family lineage actually will get delivered eventually. So it's the greatest investment you can ever do. If you like somebody, greatest gift that you can really give. It's not about the money part. It's all about, are we giving this the greatest gift that we can really give someone who we love? If you love our own self, our own family, we should actually bring that into our own house. And then eventually at least read one shloka a day. It can change our lives completely. Yeah. That's all I would say. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. We'll continue to actually have this Bhagavad Katha till the Badda Purnima comes, because you'll learn more and more about the glories. Then you'll appreciate how much fortunate we are. Unknowingly, we become so fortunate because of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Thanks, Prabhu. Prabhu.
So Wednesday we have Ekadashi, and we will publish the details when to break the fast and how to follow. I think most of the devotees know how to follow and all, but we'll just place when is the start time and time of the Ekadashi. So is there any announcements are there, Mataji? Mataji, otherwise we'll wind up the call. And we'll definitely like to thank Kripamaya Prabhu for a wonderful class on Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the first class we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in Sunday feast class. We are very thankful. Hope all the devotees are they're able to understand and enjoying the pastimes of Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, anything is there to know?
Yeah, so devotees, whoever wanted to take Srimad Bhagavatam, so we have a form actually created, Vijay Prabhu. So the devotees can order through that form. We'll be circulating again. Can be attached here also in the chat box, Prabhuji?
Yes,
Sumit
Mataji.
Prabhu. Sumit Prabhu is there. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, can in the chat box you can attach that form. So devotees, anybody wanted to order for the Srimad Bhagavatam, they can do.
Yes, that's a good thing you brought, Mataji. If devotees are actually taking Bhagavatam, we can actually have exclusive Bhagavad Katha on what all mentioned in each canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The 10 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam or 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam we can cover one day. Maybe after Badda Purnima we can do that. In about 1 hour, 1.5 hours, we can actually cover the entire Bhagavatam, what is mentioned in each canto. We can get somebody to explain to us.
Yeah,
Also-
devotees, we will circulate. Sumitro, are you there in the call? Is it possible
Yes,
for you
Prabhuji.
to put the link in the chat
Yes, Prabhuji,
and
I'll
also
put
in the
it.
WhatsApp?
Also,
we'll-
Kripamaya Prabhu, that anybody wanted to install Srimad Bhagavatam in their house, that is also possible, right?
Yes. If they want to actually keep, probably we can actually do that, Mataji. We can do that. I mean, in person also may be possible, but depending on the restrictions. But otherwise, online also we can definitely do it. We can worship Srimad Bhagavatam. Bringing Srimad Bhagavatam is bringing Krishna home. So it's a nice opportunity for us to welcome the Lord, because the Lord is going to stay with us for the future generations also. So we can do that, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
so dude,
Yeah.
in conclusion, you can order the Srimad Bhagavatam from the form specified in the chat box, and also we'll publish in the WhatsApp groups also. So whoever wants all the price also it is given. It is in the nominal price. So yeah, so and any devotees can order, and also anybody wants to know, devotees come to their house or online program to their house, and that we can do. And also if anybody if somebody is already has it, and if they want to donate to somebody, that also they can do. No, they can order it and pay it. We'll donate to a person who is qualified. So like that we can do also. So if anybody want to do donation also, it is welcome. So it will be a good. So as Kripamaya Prabhu told, it is a world's best thing we can give to the people. Okay, with that we'll close here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.